I'm Tyler Jones, and coming up on this edition of the Racing Roundtable, I'm going to tell you why Tyler Reddick is about to go back on a run and put himself in contention to win the championship.
I'm Dominic Aragon. Yes, you cannot count out even your Logano, but hold on. I'm not quite convinced.
I'm Matt Kemp, and I'm going to tell you why we have a new dominant manufacturer in Ford.
Glad to have you with us here on the Racing Roundtable. Tyler Jones, Dominic Aragon, Matt Kemp here with you. Appreciate y'all joining us. We got a lot to cover here on today's program. We'll look back on Joey Logano's win at Richmond. We'll look ahead to this weekend's race at New Hampshire. Connor Zilisch is headed to the 48 car at Hendrick Motorsports. What does that mean for Corey Day? We'll discuss that and also take a look at some schedule updates and more here on today's program. Guys, let's jump right in and get started with Joey Logano getting the victory there at Richmond. This was a race that Chase Briscoe led most of, close to 200 some odd laps. He seemed to have the best car. He dominated throughout the night. And then Joey Logano really took advantage there late at the end of the race. He was able to beat Briscoe off pit road, and Briscoe was coming. He certainly made things interesting there towards the end, but Joey Logano holds on to get the victory. That's his second win in the last four races. Matt, I'll start with you. Joey Logano, I don't know where he is championship contender wise. He's certainly turned a corner of sorts, going from 20th in points to ninth. And the big story for me is that him and really Team Penske as a whole, now, if there's one thing they have figured out very clearly, their short track program right now looks as good as anybody. That to me is my big takeaway is that they figured something out there.
Yeah, I think the last few years we've seen Ford be really, really good on the short tracks and even the mile racetracks. I feel like they've really had a stronghold on Phoenix. The last few years, especially, obviously winning was it the first three next gen or Gen 7 championships? So obviously they've had a really strong program on that side of things, and they have ever since the the Gen 7 has kind of come to come to pass, I suppose. But um yeah, no, it's an even year, man. It's an even year. So Joey Logano, it doesn't matter. It doesn't even matter how their manufacturers are running. It's funny. A few weeks ago, we were talking about how Ford, we can transition to Ford in a minute, but how Ford was kind of down in the dumps, and now we're back with Joey Logano now having two wins on the season. And you mentioned his championship um, contender status. I don't know if I'm 100% convinced on that. He is by the mathematics, as we talked about a few weeks ago, Dom. Um, he'll be in contention if he can stay where he is or climb even a little higher when the chase starts, being in the top 10 in points. But three maybe applicable tracks to where they're really strong at right now. I don't think I've seen enough on the big tracks to call them necessarily championship contenders.
I'd have to echo that too, like the hot take at the beginning of the show. Well, let's first start with the good. 39th career win. That's two wins in four races when he'd won two races in a stretch of, we'll call it almost a year and a half, bleeding back to his championship season of 2024. Now, the two wins can't be understated. They were in dominating fashion. But you have to look at what kind of racetracks those were, more on the short track circuit, like you said. And that's kind of played to the 22 and Team Penske as a whole strength. Are we forgetting how atrocious the 22 ran at Kansas, at Darlington, laps down? The dude looked like he was in his rookie year, 2009, struggling to stay on the lead lap, falling multiple laps down at both of these venues. Now, I know they had the top 10 at Michigan. Sure, I'll give you that. And they had a great run at Indy, but I feel like Joey even acknowledged it himself, Tyler. They were hit or miss at the beginning of the year. This is before the two wins. And when you open the season, the postseason, the chase at Darlington, you're going to have mile and a half sprinkled throughout that calendar. I'm not quite convinced. Gateway's going to play into their hands. Absolutely. Phoenix, Martinsville, you betcha. But to me, Matt, Tyler, it doesn't matter what the seating is going to be for the 22 team. I want to see what the speed looks like on the mile and a half. Are we going to get the knock it out of the park Joey Logano like we have seen in years past, or are we going to get the first half of 2026 Joey Logano at these tracks where he ran like a rookie?
Right. And it's twofold, right? It's not just for Joey when it comes to these mile and a half tracks of running consistent and getting top tens. If we're talking about him contending for a championship, Matt, he's got to show race winning speed. He's got to be able to go get stage points and all of that. And as good as they've been on the short tracks, they haven't even shown the ability to finish in the top five, in the top 10 for the most part when it comes to these mile and a half tracks. And there's a good amount of them in the chase. Like, to me, it's a two-step process. Yes, Joey is improved right now, but you got to go out there and show that you can finish top five, top 10, and then you got to be in contention to run up front as well. And they're still a ways off from that right now.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll kind of use this to transition a little bit into my Ford hot take. But if we're talking about the 22 team and specifically, I don't think we're talking about a championship team because of the struggles on the mile and a halves and the bigger tracks, like you mentioned. Obviously, they have the super speedway racing kind of down still, but to be honest with you, the Fords on the mile and a halves have been pretty rough this year. So hard for me to say, being that I know the championship race isn't a one race championship, and half the chase races really probably do play into their favor, but half of them really don't. So I think they're going to have a ways to go on that front, especially on the 22 team. Now, if we're talking about the 12 team, if anything, I think this strengthens Ryan Blaney's case for. I mean, no question, he was carrying Penske a few races ago. We were talking about he was the only Ford, especially the only Penske car, kind of in the chase, to be honest with you. So. It's good for Joey and them coming around, but yeah, I don't know. I don't think Ford as a whole was where they needed to be, obviously, for the first half of the year, but obviously they've found something and have really come on strong here late. So if they can keep going the way they're going, I don't see any reason why they couldn't potentially be the ones to dethrone Toyota for how strong Toyota's been this year.
Yeah. And Ryan Blaney's been fast the last 2 weeks, but they've had problems transitioning to the nighttime with these races. Their cars are completely different. He was on pole. He was one of the fastest cars in practice. But then once the lights came on, it was a different story for Ryan Blaney this past week there at Richmond. And as much, Matt, I'll go back to you on this one real quick. As much as you and I and Dominic as well have applauded Ryan Blaney and talked about how well he's run this year, that team is held him back so much. They are one of the worst pit crews on pit road. We've seen the mistakes all year long. We see the last 2 weeks where they have speed up front, but they don't make the necessary adjustments that they need to as the race goes on here. To me, that's a red flag for Ryan Blaney, and his championship chances is not the driver, but the team holding him back.
Yeah, and I don't think you're necessarily wrong about that. They definitely were worse at the beginning of the year than they are now. I think they've seen some improvement, but definitely not where they need to be for sure. So, but in terms of pace, I mean, I think he's got the second most laps led of anyone this season, which puts him squarely second in points, which is pretty impressive for how Ford has been overall. And it's beating a dead horse at this point for how good Ryan Blaney's been this year. But we're just going to have to see kind of when we get to the chase if they can step up as a team and fire on all cylinders. They absolutely could be a championship contender team. We've already seen it this year, running second in points. So hard to argue against the 12 team. And with this newfound speed of the 22, if anything, I feel like it makes Ryan Blaney's case better.
So let's talk about some of the other storylines from this past weekend. Chase Briscoe finishing second, led a ton of laps, but comes up just short. Chase Briscoe's probably thinking he should have won this race, that he was the best car in the field, the way that he was running, and that could have been his second win of the season. If he would have had one or two more laps, this may have been a different story. Dom, really good showing from Chase Briscoe, but coming up just short like that's going to be a tough pill to swallow because they have to be thinking they should have won this race.
Well, they had the race winning speed. They collected 17 stage points, 171 laps led, and pretty much half the race. But the 19 was a factor all night up front when it counted, but not in the final part of the race where it just couldn't make the pass on Logano. And it seemed like the short track racing guys, we've knocked the short track package, I think, a lot over the last year and a half, 2 years, maybe since the next gen era has started. But the racing has felt a lot better, I would say, in weeks past. Even though, yes, we've seen some domination. We saw Joey Logano put a butt whip in at North Wilkesboro. We got an overtime finish at Bristol for what that's worth. I know some like that, some don't. Fight me. Overtime's awesome. But nonetheless, outside of that kind of excitement, the short track racing has been better at large, and Chase Briscoe seems to be finding himself up front at a lot of these short tracks, Tyler. I don't know if we necessarily pegged him as a good short track racer over the years. I certainly didn't. But when you go out and lead 171 laps and you run up front, I don't know. You tell me, Matt, from a competitor's standpoint, when you have a run like that, is it more deflating on the team to come up short, or does it give more momentum for the next weekend? I know the tracks don't always align as to one week you're at a short track and the next week's a road course or whatever the case is. But as a collective, as a team, as a driver, does a run like that help or hurt more of the confidence with the team?
I don't know that it helps more than winning, but I would absolutely say, I mean, the day of it might be a little deflating, but I guarantee you Monday morning, everybody, goes into that meeting like, all right, here's the things we could have done different. They're figuring it out. And if anything, I think it'd probably light a fire under them, in my opinion. Now, if you're Christopher Bell and you've done it 7 times this year, it might not be as much of a lighting a fire. It might be more deflating at this rate, but Briscoe's already got himself a win. And he honestly, they've climbed from the depths of the point standings all the way now to the top 5. Like, that team is kind of doing what they did last year, and they're on fire and they're ready for this chase. So he's one of those guys, man. He's gonna be a sleeper pick this year for the championship with how good Gibbs is and how good that 19 team has been.
Yeah,
with the slow start to the season.
Certainly. So Austin Cindric with a third place finish. Dom, Austin Cindric, we've been waiting for this from him. We knew that Logano and Blaney had speed, and Austin Cindric, of course, he's in the same equipment. This was kind of a breakthrough night that he needed, and that two team needs to show some more consistency beyond just that. That needs to be a building block here.
Well, I'm eating my words here, Tyler. I said a few weeks back when you had asked me who'd be most likely to fall out of the playoff contention. Oh, there's $5 in the jar. Chase contention. I thought it would have been.
Postseason's the safe word, remember.
Postseason is the safe word. That's the middle ground. Yes. Austin Cindric, rather. Gosh, another $5 there. But Cindric, I felt, would have been the driver, all joking aside, to have been the one to fall out of contention for the postseason. But here he is increasing his tally. He picked up 14 stage points. He was 4th in both stages on Saturday night and increased his gap to the cut line. So New Hampshire kind of plays into that wheelhouse. He won the race at Gateway a couple of years ago, and it's a very similar track. So Austin Cindric's in a good spot here, Tyler. You want to talk momentum. 3rd place last week. You got to knock off another top 10 run, and then arguably one of the best, if not the best, super speedway racer in next gen era Cup Series action. This is Cindric's spot to lose in the playoffs. I have to eat my words here. Cindric is going to make the chase, barring anything out of his control.
Yeah. Denny Hamlin finishes 4th. Matt, this was a date that Denny certainly had circled. His home track, a place that he's dominated. We were talking to Jerry last week, and Jerry was saying, bet the house on Denny. Hopefully you didn't take Jerry's financial advice on that, because he was saying, hey, bet him to take the pole, to win this first stage, win the second stage, and win the race. None of those things happened, but he still finishes 4th, and his point lead is still really good. If you're Denny, I got to be thinking, Matt, like, you're saying to yourself, yeah, this was an opportunity. This is a race that should have been ours, but you expanded your points lead, and you still got a top 5 out of it. You can't be too mad about it, right?
No, yeah, definitely not mad about it. I think you still feel pretty confident as the 11 team, as they absolutely should. He's had honestly a pretty insane year. He's got 4 more top 5s than the rest of the field. I mean, and it has the most top 10s of anybody. Obviously has the points lead by well over a race. So, I mean, if he maintains his points lead, he's the number 1 seed going into the chase after next week. assuming that he can maintain or even stay within 20 or 30 points. So that 11 team's got nothing to worry about right now. After next week anyway, maybe for a minute. But I don't know. They're still far and away the best team that there is out there. Obviously, even at these short tracks where Ford's so good. So I got nothing. I got no worries about Denny.
You can't win them all.
That's right.
No,
You can
can't win them
try,
all.
but he's gotten about as close as you can get so far this year.
So, Tyler, my question for you on Hamlin, and for you too, Matt. We think back to last year. Denny Hamlin is in a similar position now, in my opinion. I'll explain why, as to why it is like the round of 8. When he won at Vegas, he had the buffer heading into Phoenix. And he said they had all this time to prep for Phoenix, and that's why he was so fast. I feel like they're in a similar spot. You got a 100 and some point lead over Ryan Blaney. You can essentially lock up the regular season championship. How much preparation do you think he and his team are already doing for Darlington, and how much out of the gate are they going to come swinging? Because we know the 11's fast at Darlington, has shown that in the next gen era. But to me, guys, it feels like Hamlin, this really is his championship to lose this year. And he's going to start with a lot of momentum like he had similar in that round of 8. When they come out at Darlington, it's going to feel like a Phoenix swing here in a couple weeks. Curious if you guys agree with that.
Dom, if they have anything in the tank, watch out. Because they're already smoking everybody right now.
Yeah, what I would say to that is look back how things did end last year. And in the past, when Denny knew he was going to the championship 4, and I can say this because this is accurate, this is what it was called back then, in the playoffs, to go to the championship. Like there was multiple times where Denny already knew he was locked in before the final race, before Phoenix, and then they think they have everything lined up and it didn't work out. If I were advising, and they don't care about what I have to say, but if I were advising the 11 team, Matt, I would tell that team, take it one race at a time. I mean, keep doing what got you here. Dance with the girl you brought to this. Don't be worried about the chase and Darlington and looking ahead too much. Keep at this week after week, one race at a time. That's what I would say.
I think that's the key for Denny, especially, is keep doing the things that got you here. I think maybe in his earlier championship runs, he had a lot of those, obviously slip-ups or chokes that, he was just trying to get more than was capable of. So I think we saw a new Denny last year, and obviously it wasn't his fault that they lost the championship last year. He did everything right as a driver. So if the team and driver get it together this year, just keep doing the things that have gotten to this point, as you said, they're going to be all right.
All right, we got to talk Kyle Larson now. Did anybody have a better weekend than Kyle Larson? Finishes 6th at Richmond. And if you recall, folks, to give a little step back, a couple days, he showed up at the Knoxville Nationals and qualified. And at the time, it looked like, okay, he's not going to be able to run the Knoxville Nationals because it's the same time as Richmond. Then the plan was that one of his crew guys was just going to start and park his sprint car so they could get the points and get the payout and all that. Well, then the weather forecast is showing that it doesn't look good at Knoxville, that they're probably going to race Sunday. And so then Denny's entering Saturday thinking, okay, I'll run Richmond, get on a plane, fly to Knoxville and race Sunday in the Knoxville Nationals. Well, then the weather starts to clear out, and he finds out in the middle of the race from his crew chief, Cliff Daniels, hey, we're getting you an airplane, getting you a chopper, get to the chopper to get to Knoxville. And he's all, shocked by all this happening in real time. And he gets permission from NASCAR to skip his media obligations, parks the car on pit road, heads straight to the airport, goes to Knoxville, ends up winning the Knoxville Nationals there as he arrived at midnight. Just an incredible night for Kyle Larson, 6th at Richmond, and then to win the Knoxville Nationals. Matt, Kyle Larson's done a lot of incredible things in his career, and I would put this right up there with the best of the best. Like, I know that he started on pole in the Knoxville Nationals, but to run 400 miles at Richmond, then run that in the middle of the night and win that thing after finishing 6th, I was floored. I was amazingly impressed with Kyle Larson, what he did there.
That's like when we talk about doing the double for Indy and the Coke 600. It's impressive for anybody just to go run all the laps in those races. I feel like this is kind of the same case scenario. I know it's not necessarily as long of a race over in Knoxville, but it's a long enough race, and I mean, you've just run a full length cup race at one of the hardest physical tracks, more than likely to run. So yeah, pretty damn impressive. I mean, pretty awesome feat. And I would agree with you. It's up there towards the top of the things that he's been able to accomplish in his career. And um, I've got another hot take for you here is I think it's okay, and it would have been okay if he would have skipped Richmond to run the Knoxville Nationals, which I know that is probably a pretty hot take because NASCAR is pretty upset about would have been upset about him choosing Indy over a cup race. So
I agree with you, but NASCAR doesn't agree. That would have hurt his chase situation there.
yeah, I don't think he would have skipped anyway this year, especially not having the win and you're in situation as we
Right.
have in previous. But um, I don't know. I think it's okay in certain states. I think they shouldn't schedule the races on top of each other. That's the first step.
Yeah, like Richmond next year moves to September. I believe that's not going to be a conflict next year where he could still run Knoxville and whatever NASCAR race falls that weekend. Dom, what was your takeaways? What was your impressions what Kyle Larson did?
I have to admit, because I'm not going to lie here, I didn't know the full story. I knew that he'd taken off to Knoxville. Could have done some due diligence here and research as to how he was able to run the A main, but it makes sense. Qualified a couple days before they had their contingency plan. No, it's impressive. And the fact that Hendrick Motorsports chartered their plane and wanted to make sure that he was able to see fit through that, I think that shows that they believe in what he's doing outside of the NASCAR Cup Series obligations that he has. And I think when you have a team owner behind you like that, that really shows that we're in it for the long haul. We believe in what you're doing. It's not taking away from your obligations on what we're doing. We want to help you. So I was impressed with the logistics behind that and how the timing just worked out for everything for that to be able to happen, because that doesn't always happen. So really, really cool to see that.
Matt, I'll say one more thing too. Like I saw a couple of his post-race interviews in Knoxville. And granted, this was at like 2 o'clock in the morning. We're all a little different, at that hour, whether we've consumed any alcohol or not. And clearly he hadn't because he was driving a race car. But he was so loose and joyful, and he's calling out his haters, and he's using some language that I can't say on this show. And I saw that. I'm like, how come I've never seen this version of Kyle Larson before? Like the Hendrick Kyle Larson is so corporate and afraid of saying the wrong thing. And I know that he did say the wrong thing one time and it cost him his job. But with that said, like that guy that I saw in Knoxville, I'm like, why can't we see that version of Kyle Larson more often?
Well, I think sprint car racing is Larson's home, man. I mean, that's where he probably feels most at peace and kind of relaxed because he's really just there to chase trophies. He's not trying to necessarily impress sponsors or, um, you know, work out any of the corporate things. He's just there to race, and be a racer, and that's where he can be purely a racer, which is pretty awesome. So I'm a big fan of the dirt side, and obviously there's that whole part of it too that's not so um, it's not corporate racing as Ty Gibbs would put it. So there's that whole side of it, and that's probably more the reason you're seeing that. I think it's really just because he's at home.
Yeah. I would go as far as to say, Dom, and this might be a hot take too. I don't think Kyle Larson's going to have a long career in the NASCAR Cup Series. This is not going to be somebody I think that's racing when he's 45, 46, 47, at least full time. As Matt said, his home is sprint car racing. Like, I believe, and this is not a knock on Kyle, I think this is just the truth. The NASCAR Cup Series is his job. Sprint car racing is his passion. He is going to do this for a little while longer, make the money he can, contend for wins and championships. And it would not shock me one bit if we're talking about a 40-year-old Kyle Larson that's a full-time sprint car driver and comes back to run the big NASCAR races from time to time. I very well could see that happening.
Yeah, he has said that in the past, and I know that comment resurfaced, I want to say, in the last few weeks. And I don't know if he's kind of backpedaled that a little bit, that maybe he would have a longer career, or where the truth all lies and all that, because you might say one thing and have another intention. I get that, but I think a fan put it really, really well, Tyler. And I wish I could give credit to who said this, but more or less that Kyle Larson, like you said, NASCAR is his job. He enjoys the dirt racing, where the dirt's his love, but the asphalt's got the money.
Yeah, exactly. He lost a lot of money during that COVID year when he was winning all those sprint car races and didn't have a NASCAR job at the time. Let's
I
take
think
a
he
look.
said he made more money some of the weeks because of how much merchandise they were
Well, the
selling
sales,
at the dirt tracks. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Let's take a look at the point standings, where things stand right now. Denny Hamlin leading 452 to the cutoff. He, Blaney, Gibbs, Reddick, Briscoe, Elliott, and Bell are all locked in with 2 races to go. Meanwhile, Kyle Larson sits in 8th, Joey Logano 9th, Buescher, Hocevar has dropped all the way back to 11th, William Byron in 12th, Daniel Suarez 13th, Bubba 14th, Cindric 15th, and SVG sitting in 16th, and he is 50 above. Then behind them, Priest 50 out, Ross Chastain 63 out, Brad Kay 78 out, and Eric Jones is 81 out. Let's start with the guys that are locked in to the chase field at this point. Matt, I'm looking at those guys, and I got to give credit to Tyler Reddick here for a moment. We know short tracks are not his strength. He was running in the top 5 for much of the night. He finishes 11th. I think that the 45 is going to start to turn a corner here and re-enter the championship discussion if they haven't already.
I've been thinking that for weeks, and it's seemingly only compounded for how bad his stretch has been. Uh, I don't know. I don't know if it was an accurate headline, but I thought I read somewhere that Mr. Michael Jordan made a visit to the shop
They did, yes.
To speak to everybody, and I'd say that's probably a pretty good time for that to happen, considering you've got Reddick, who's fallen from over a race lead in the points lead to now 4th in points, in danger of losing the 5th spot, to be honest with you. I mean, I don't even know actually if it looks like it's barely possible, so he's not really in that much danger. But then you've got Bubba Wallace, who realistically has a shot to fall out of the chase here in the next few weeks. So I don't know, guys.
Yeah. Dom, looking at the guys that haven't locked in, we'll talk about the bubble, the real bubble here in just a second. But Larson, Logano, Buescher, Hocevar, Byron, there's been a lot of shuffling that's gone on in those spots there with Joey having his rise up, Hocevar having his struggles the last few weeks. A lot of movement there.
A lot of movement. Logano, I think the biggest one in the last 6 races, from 20th, almost what a full race worth out from the playoffs to 9th. He could probably climb as high as 7th or 6th or maybe even 5th if things kind of goes away over the next couple of weeks. A lot of movement can still take place, but you look at that list, Tyler, I'm just still surprised. We haven't talked about a William Byron or a Kyle Larson victory lane visit in the Cup Series yet this year. So those kind of things stick out to me among that group. But to me, they are generally safe over the next 2 races, and less catastrophic mechanical failures and crashes take these guys out of contention over the next 2 weeks.
Matt, the other guys that are above the cutoff, when we talk Daniel Suarez, Bubba Wallace, Austin Cindric, Shane Van Gisbergen, they're all 50 or above. I think if you're that group, you got to be headed in New Hampshire thinking, okay, if we get a top 10 this week and potentially some stage points, then we're in a really good spot heading into Daytona this week. And all eyes particularly are going to be on SVG because he's going to need every point he can heading into Daytona.
Yeah, I think you're spot on with that mindset of trying to maximize the day and put yourself in a place where you're comfortable for Daytona, which realistically is possible. And I mean, it is entirely possible. I mean, it looks like it's fairly close to possible that we could lock down our chase field before we even get to Daytona, being at 16. I mean, there's a big enough gap there. If some crazy things happen, it could potentially happen if the right people have good days and bad days. But it could also swing the other way, and we could have a really, really great battle as we go into Daytona. So you're spot on, I think, Tyler, with that mindset of just trying to maximize the day. And they're going to have to, because 50 points might sound like a lot, but like you said, Dom, we've seen a lot of movement, and we've seen how much of a swing these point standings can have with this new format.
So, Dom, with the guys on the outside, Priest 50 back, Chastain 3, Kez 78, Jones 81. With these final 2 races remaining, who do you believe has the best shot to crack the chase in these final 2 races?
Just because I'm going off past history and even in his new role the last few years, we can't count Brad Keselowski out. I know the season's kind of fallen apart throughout the summer. He was top 10 in points in May, and a lot of DNFs have just kind of curtailed that. But he's got great history at New Hampshire. He's run well in the 6 car at that place. And I know it's not quite a Darlington-esque kind of track, but if there's a track that RFK is going to run well at before this new chase starts this next couple of weeks, a New Hampshire could be a breath of life for the 6 team. And then you go to Daytona, and again, arguably one of the best super speedway racers on the circuit and among one of the best in the next gen era. Hasn't won yet in the next gen era in this type of vehicle. I would think Brad Keselowski could be the one poised for a good run, but Ross Chastain has shown some speed as of late, but that could be a little too late as well.
All right, let's get to our headlines for this week. Plenty to discuss. Dom, where do we want to start?
Gosh, we could start New Hampshire. We could go home sweet Homestead, but let's start with some moves that are actually happening beyond next year in 2028. A look at Connor Zilisch and where his future holds. Hendrick Motorsports announced on Tuesday, August 17th, the young shot from Trackhouse Motorsports is going to be heading over, or Trackhouse Racing, rather, is going to be heading over to Hendrick Motorsports in 2028, filling the role of the number 48 Ally Chevrolet once Alex Bowman retires from NASCAR Cup Series competition. Now, the move seems to have been something mutual from all sides. I don't know the details as far as the contract or if there was a buyout or how long he was signed. I don't feel like
there was no buyout. His contract ends at the end of next year.
So Trackhouse isn't even going to get a payout on it, right? So Zilisch is free to sign wherever he needs. But nonetheless, Tyler, big moves coming. Silly season for next year is already starting this year.
So a couple thoughts I have on this, Matt. I'll throw this all out there at once and let you react. Number one, Zilisch going to the 48. That's about as good as what Hendrick Motorsports could have asked for. Of available options out there, obviously they couldn't get Corey Heim, so the next best option is Connor Zilisch. I think that's a home run selection by Hendrick Motorsports to go with Connor Zilisch. He's got a very bright future. His struggles this year in his rookie campaign are not his fault for the most part. I don't read too much into that. He's a terrific talent. He'll do well, and I think that'll be an upgrade from Alex Bowman. With that said, a couple other factors involved. The next question, okay, what about Corey Day? You brought him all the way from California. What does this mean for him? Corey Day's just now running stock cars and ovals for the very first time in his life. There's no need to rush him into the NASCAR Cup Series in 2028 just yet. I think that, we mentioned, we don't know how much longer Larson's going to do this. Maybe, Spire is a satellite team for them. Maybe there's an opening there. Maybe he goes to Trackhouse potentially. Like, there will be opportunities for Corey Day, a chance to earn himself. So I'm not so concerned about Corey Day. But then another factor I bring up, last point I promise, is what does the future hold for Trackhouse Racing after all this? This was supposed to be their guy, their prodigy. And Ross's contract is about to come up. SVG's contract is about to come up. They have not been running well. Do those guys even want to stay there with the circumstances? I've already seen Ross's name floated with Penske as a potential option, maybe replacing Cindric. What about their charters? And then just like the idea that, hey, Chevy was pulling the strings and took your top prospect from you to go to their top team, Hendrick. That's got to sting a bit. Do you really want to be associated with Chevy when they're pulling those punches? Is Dodge potentially an option for Trackhouse there? I think there's a lot to take away here from just this single driver move here, Matt.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Tyler. I actually, when the announcement came out, I thought it was a bigger deal that Trackhouse was losing Zilisch than it was that Hendrick was gaining Zilisch, because I felt like it wasn't necessarily a surprising thing to happen. It was a big deal for sure, so I don't want to undermine that, but surprising, not that surprising, but I think it's actually a bigger deal, like you mentioned. that Trackhouse is losing. I mean, arguably their star future
We
prospect.
hardly ever see drivers leave to other teams within the manufacturer like that.
I mean, I mean, to go to Hendrick, I guess I can't blame somebody, right? But um,
But
I think
it was
anybody
clearly a
understands.
coordinated thing, is what I'm saying.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I think anytime you have a guy win that many races and in the O'Reilly series and you know, show how much talent he's had on the road courses, obviously already in Cup. I know it hasn't been the year that he's hoped for, but he's had moments that he's shined through. But it was clear before this year and before the struggles of Trackhouse that he was a superstar in the making. And um, Hendrick obviously saw that and wanted to make it happen. So uh, I can't imagine there's a whole lot of times when the Hendrick team doesn't get what they want. So that worked out pretty well for them.
Yeah. Dom, what's kind of your thoughts on this situation?
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the Tyler Reddick situation where he got poached to go to 2311 Racing, and it was still a year and a half out. But the one thing that is just really striking out to me, the instant reaction, and now with time to digest it throughout the week, is just how different the situations were handled. You look at the professionalism from Justin Marks, and it seems like there's nothing but gratitude and wishing for the best. Where when the Tyler Reddick thing happened, RCR puts out this decision couldn't have come out at a worse time, or however they had worded it, right? I just see the stark difference where your guys on the way out, 18 months out, and just how the situations have been handled different. I don't think we're going to see a situation where Zilisch would be released a year early or be given bad cars. I really don't think anything like that's going to happen. I'm not saying that happened with RCR either, but just how the days and the situation and how everything has unfolded in the days since the announcement, I look at those stark differences, just a better handling of it with the Zilisch situation versus Reddick in 22.
Yeah. So what do we think, guys? Like, what happens with Corey Day and where does Trackhouse go from here? We'll start with you, man.
Corey Day, that's an interesting one. I thought it was crazy that his name was even being floated for a cup ride because of how soon. I mean, he's literally been racing stock cars on ovals for what, a year? I mean, it's
If
like
that.
nothing, It's almost
And don't get me wrong, he's done a pretty good job for limited experience, but he's still got a long
agreed,
ways to go.
agreed. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I'm feeling correctly about it. I'll just be open about it. But I don't know. It almost feels insulting that somebody come from the dirt world or anywhere really for that matter and just kind of jump in the second highest series and be like, all right, you're going to Cup next year. Like that just doesn't feel right to me. It feels like skipping steps and cheating the system. But obviously he's very talented. So um, and he's won races already at the O'Reilly series level. So maybe it's justified. And if you ask me, he's going to be just fine because I think that's who Larson wants to replace him in the 5 car once he gets done. That's my theory to it. And obviously, he's heading down that path, and he's going to be talented enough to do it. It seems like now Trackhouse. I don't know. Obviously, they just signed Bush as Ross's. That's kind of their big sponsor. I feel like at that team on Ross's car, that was a big deal coming from Harvick. But I don't know if you retain them, and I think that plays a big factor in where they go next too.
Dom, what say you? What do you think happens with Corey Day and where does Trackhouse go from here?
I feel like I've heard this rumbling too. Maybe you guys have too, that maybe a Spire ride would open up in the Cup Series by the time 28 rolls around, and Corey Day could fill that role. And
Like
and if
Michael
that were to be the
McDowell or
case,
something? Yeah.
Yeah, very,
exactly, Michael
very fair.
McDowell steps
Well,
away or gets
McDowell did
replaced.
mention that McKee was already going in that ride. McDowell did mention that, so
Oh,
Yeah, I'm not so sold on McKee yet, but
we'll
oh,
see.
you think Day has talent? I think Tristan McKee has a lot of talent. I don't know. Time will tell. But there's a lot of impressive. It's a good problem to have if you're Cup owners, if you're in the O'Reilly series, and there's a lot of talent. It seems like there is a lot of young talent to pick from.
now you didn't answer my question about Trackhouse. Where do you think Trackhouse goes from here? Yeah, where do you think Trackhouse
Oh,
goes?
Matt. Oh, I thought that was for Matt. No, I thought the question was on Corey Day with where he
No,
would
I
go.
said Corey Day and Trackhouse. Yes. Where does Trackhouse go from here?
Do you consider a move to Dodge? Is that something that kind of pops up? That kind of popped in my head because I don't know how the charter system would work out. I think if you're already an established team, you may not be eligible for new charters. But if your highest prospect is being taken away to another team, and you're already kind of what seems to appear to be not the top Chevrolet team, do you turn to Dodge? Colleague's going to be probably going with Dodge at some point. Why not bring Trackhouse along for the ride? If you're Justin Marks, have you already made the call to Dodge, to Stellantis?
I think you have. I think they'd be crazy not to at least pick up the phone and see what the heck's going on with Dodge, because the Chevy program is not doing them any good. They're running as bad as they have in years right now. Chevy just took away your top prospect to their top team. You're never going to be the top team in the Chevy camp. You're never going to be priority. With Dodge, it's not a slight on Colleague, but Colleague and Trackhouse do have prior history where Trackhouse and Colleague have worked together. They as of right now, Matt, again, not a slight on Colleague at all. Trackhouse would immediately be that flagship team for Dodge.
I find that hard to argue with, to be honest with you. But I I don't know, with Colleague kind of where they're at. It's hard to say whether they would probably get, I don't know, with having such limited resources for Dodge, kind of coming in. I bet you there would be more sharing, and it would probably be a better opportunity.
Even
You're
them
certainly not going
sharing
to
with
be
Colleague is better than what they're at right now.
right. Yeah, for sure. And for Colleague, honestly, that'd be better too, because what are they doing right now on their own? And I mean, for how good they're running on their own, you would think that with a little bit of extra support, they could be even better.
Yeah, I think so. What else we got, Dom?
Well, we know that the championship is staying at home. Homestead, that is. The Homestead-Miami Speedway has announced that the 2027 NASCAR Cup schedule, as it continues to trickle out announcement by announcement, will host the championship weekend yet again in 2027. So we know Homestead was the home of the NASCAR championship race from 2002 through 2019, and will once again host the NASCAR Cup Series, O'Reilly Series, and Truck Series championships this year in 2026, and that will stay put for 2027. At the time of this taping, Tyler, there are still a few tracks that have yet to make their announcement. There's rumblings about Chicago. I believe Pocono has announced their race weekend in June as well. Kansas still waiting on some dates, but we pretty much know where the schedule is sitting as tracks continue to release one by one. We are not, what it appears, Tyler, like years past, we are not getting a bulk announcement at once, but rather the tracks are being giving the druthers to be able to put out their announcements as they see fit.
Right. And the tracks need to do that because they need to sell tickets. And so, NASCAR dragging their feet on putting the schedule, the tracks got to do their job. So nobody's blaming the tracks at all for releasing these dates as we get them. But as far as the championship goes, let's start there for a moment, Matt. I know NASCAR has been talking about for a long time that they want to rotate this thing, but there's only so many places you can go because it's in November and it's got to be a NASCAR owned track, at least as the way it's structured right now. It has to be a NASCAR owned event. So you can't go to Vegas. You can't go to Texas. Those are, tracks owned by SMI, for example. And with it being November, it's got to be warm weather. So then you look at your options like, well, Homestead, Daytona, Talladega, Phoenix. Kansas usually isn't too good that time of year, although their people have said they want the championship. They had two goals with Kansas Speedway a couple years ago. They wanted a Buc-ee's and they wanted the championship. They got the Buc-ee's coming. Doesn't look like the championship's coming anytime soon. Matt, Homestead did a great job all those years. I would like to see it rotate, but you're just limited on where you can go.
Yeah, I don't necessarily hate the idea of rotating it either, especially now being under the chase format. I think you can absolutely rotate them. And every race in the chase is going to play just as big of a role as it would if we had a full season championship. So, yeah, I'm all for it, but happy that we're going back to Homestead, and obviously Homestead's a great place to hold it and a great place to be. But I don't know. I watch replays and highlight reels back, and it feels special watching it. It feels like under the lights, champions coming across the line at the end of the season. It just feels right. So I feel like it's going to be hard to replicate that on a bunch of different tracks at the end of the year, but maybe it won't. I just know that Phoenix has not felt like a championship race the last few years, Tom. I don't know about you.
Now, I'm from the Southwest, and that's my closest track, but we can call balls to strikes on this show. Matt, that Homestead race, that feels like a championship race. I've been there 3 times for a NASCAR championship race week, and I've been to Phoenix 5 times, and the Homestead vibe in South Florida, ending the season there. That's just right, Tyler. We were there in 2019. I think we couldn't stop talking about that for years. Just how awesome that place and that venue is for hosting a championship. It doesn't matter if it's a championship 4 race or a chase format or the Winston Cup era. We got to be ending the season in Miami.
Yeah. Miami, Homestead, great spot. I'd like to see it rotate, but there's just only so many places you can go. But if it just ends up that we've changed between Homestead and Phoenix, that works for me as far as I'm concerned. Also on the scheduled note, NASCAR Roundtable's Jonathan Feld reported today at the time of this taping about the Chicago situation that the street course will not return in 2027, but Chicagoland Speedway will. And NASCAR issued a statement to NASCAR Roundtable stating in part, we would welcome the opportunity to bring the NASCAR Chicago Street Race back at some point in the future. NASCAR stated to Roundtable it's continually looking at ways to improve and invest in the fan experience, and those conversations are ongoing. So a little backstory, some reporting that's been out there is that there was, as these things always do, come down to money, that NASCAR wanted more money than what the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois was willing to pay to have there. And so they pivoted and went to Joliet instead. Matt, I don't think the street course is off the table long term. I think it is for 2027, of course, but clearly this is something that's still a priority for NASCAR, that they want to make the Chicago street course happen again at some point. We just might have to wait a while for it.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I was super excited about Chicagoland coming back. I think everybody who was at that race this year, obviously there was some traffic inconveniences and some things out of their control. I'm sure there's some things in their control they could probably improve on, and hopefully they do. But I think everybody there who watched that race, for the most part, was really happy with it and wanted it to come back again. Everybody who watched on TV seemed like it was a pretty good show and a good race. So, and I thought the track was great. So, and Tyler, you were there too. So, I mean, I don't know what you thought, but I thought it was great, and I loved really stoked to hear that it's coming back. So, Chicago street course, sure, would be cool. I grew up spending a lot of time on Michigan Avenue and being down there in Chicago, and it's super cool to me. Growing up literally right across the lake. I'd go to the beach and could see Chicago from basically right where I grew up, from across the lake. So I think it's really cool having a street race, but I'm really stoked for Chicagoland being back.
Dom, I think it's kind of a good problem to have of sorts for NASCAR. They have 2 options. There's no other market in the country that we can point to and we can say, hey, we got 2 different places we could potentially go to. I think long term, we'll see what the politics have to say about it, but maybe it's rotation. Maybe you find a way to work them both in the schedule. To me, like this is not goodbye the Chicago street course. It is going to come back. Chicagoland isn't going anywhere either. Like I think both of them, maybe not the same year, but both sites are in the long-term plans for NASCAR here.
What a good problem to have. You can go to the city of Chicago on the streets. You can go to your purpose-built track. You're right. No other market really has this problem. And I say problem not really as a problem. It's a great thing to be able to, you can rotate. Like we're talking about the season-ending race rotating. You could rotate here. Now, Tyler, I don't know about Chicago in November, but that may not be an option for the season finale. But nonetheless, NASCAR's got a great problem on its hands to be able to juggle both. And maybe there is a situation where both could work out someday.
Yeah, maybe so. But 2027 will not be that someday. Dom, what else we got? We going to odds next?
Going to odds, looking ahead at the Dollar Tree 301 at New Hampshire Motor Speedway at the time of this taping. Last year's winner and second in points, Ryan Blaney, is your odds-on favorite to win the race at New Hampshire at the Magic Mile at 3.5 to 1 or plus 350. Christopher Bell at plus 425. Joey Logano plus 475, last week's winner. Denny Hamlin, your points leader at plus 600. Chase Briscoe, your runner-up from last week at plus 850. Kyle Larson is 12 to 1. Ty Gibbs is 14 to 1. Josh Berry had some good runs lately, guys, sitting 16 to 1. I feel like those are the shortest odds we've seen all season for Josh Berry at any track. William Byron, winless in 26 at 20 to 1. Kyle Larson is 12 to 1. Ty Gibbs is 14 to 1. Josh Berry is 12 to 1. Ty Gibbs is 14 to 1. Josh Berry had some good runs lately, guys, sitting 16 to 1. I feel like those are the shortest odds we've seen all season for Josh Berry at any track. William Byron, winless in 26 at 20 Chase Elliott and Tyler Reddick each at 22-1. Austin Cindric, third last week at 30-1. Bubba Wallace still winless on the year. He's 35-1. Ross Chastain also winless, 50-1. Carson Osvar, 55-1. Austin Dillon and Brad Keselowski each coming in at 65-1. And your bottom five, Noah Gragson and Austin Hill, each at 500-1. Cole Custer, 750-1. Ty Dillon is 1,000-1. And Cody Ware is 2,500-1. As always, I'm not giving you financial advice. This is just purely for entertainment and news purposes only.
Yeah, unless you're me or Jerry Jordan, then we can give you financial advice. But you probably didn't want to listen to us last week based on how things went. With that said, Matt, it would be easy to take Ryan Blaney or Joey Logano or Denny Hamlin, but this week for me, I got my eyes on Chase Briscoe. He came so. I would imagine he could bring a similar setup to what they ran last week. We know Toyota and JGR's been fast all year. I got my eyes on Chase Briscoe. That's who I got this week. How about you?
I'll say that is a good pick. Like I've been saying the last few times we've done picks, it's hard not to go with the Toyota. They've been so dominant and very good. But I don't know. Ford's looked pretty quick last week, and obviously Toyota has something for him, but those Fords were pretty quick, and I don't disagree with you on the Toyota side, but I'm going to go with a Ford. And I'm not going to go with a Ford you'd probably expect, but it's his home race, and I think he's got a fire under him. I think Ryan Preece is going to win and make the bubble for the chase pretty interesting.
That would be something.
Would.
By the way, I have to mention this real quick, Matt. You've been pumping Ford this entire show today. You've been talking high of Toyota, and you're wearing a Chevy shirt?
That's right. Wait, we got a hedge. I'm not affiliated with anybody, so we're hedging all around.
You're doing the opposite of Frankie Muniz here.
That's correct. He's in trucks and I'm not, so maybe I'm doing something wrong. Maybe I need to start bashing everybody, but I don't know. I'll stop with that.
We'll see how long he's in trucks with his attitude. We like Frankie though. Dom, who's got your eye this weekend?
See, Matt, I think you're pulling the journalist card. You're just holding everybody accountable, which I can appreciate. I'm with you, Matt. There is something about the Ford camp. You have me sold on it. Fords are fast as of late, and I'm picking someone else in the Ford camp too. He has not won yet this year. He's shown speed. He's top 10 to fill to death, it seems more often than not. He's had top 5, or at least one top 5 finish at New Hampshire in the next gen car, but hasn't won in almost 2 years. He has the same odds as Ryan Preece, because when you look at the opening odds at the time of this taping, Ryan Preece is 75-1. The guy I'm going with as well is 75-1. Give me Chris Buescher to win on Sunday at New Hampshire.
Chris Buescher.
Okay. Talking about. I'm high on Chris Buescher too, but he's not the hometown favorite, so see what happens.
Yeah, see, Prosper, Texas, probably like 1,500 miles away. I'm sure Preece could tell you because of the billboard. So
correct.
Yeah,
correct.
Someone in that RFK camp's going to Victory Lane Sunday. Camp. I'm sold on that.
Neither one of us picked Brad Keselowski though, so
he's gonna get stage points. They're gonna have a repeat of Darlington. They're all gonna be up front. They're gonna have a great career day type deal for the organization, but one of the RFK cars will come up on top, I think, this time.
I haven't heard any more from Brad about listening to Choosing Texas, so that ship may have already sailed. He finished 26th last week. Maybe his Spotify, he didn't pay the bill or something.
Yeah, that's what happened.
Hey, it could be that. I mean, I think the song's still #1 on the Spotify chart list, but maybe he's just trying to match where it is on the list. Maybe her song's now 26. He's just trying to match the finishes where she's at.
Well, she's this week broke the female single record 18 weeks in a row on Billboard.
For her. She has, was it right, Tyler? 2 or 3 songs among the top 10 of the Billboard Hot 100?
Yes. 2 or 3 songs like in the top 10. Yes.
That's awesome.
An incredible run.
Unheard of. Yeah, good for her.
Unheard of. I will be I'll be jamming out to Luke Combs' Daytona 499 here in a couple weeks myself. That's a good song if you haven't heard it already. Off of Luke's latest album. Before we go, what's everybody got going on this week? Starting with you, Matthew.
Well, Tyler, I'll be honest with you. I'm pretty busy running around just doing things around the house, going to the Kalamazoo Clash tomorrow, actually midweek race. That'll be cool. more than likely going down there, as long as the weather holds out. If it doesn't, then I'll be home. Thinking about maybe going to a race or two this weekend. We'll see what happens. But other than that, we're just getting stuff, completing the honey-do list around the house.
There you go.
Yeah.
What about you, Tom?
Yeah, it'll be another home weekend before start hitting the road here pretty soon for a lot of the chase races. But yeah, just kind of getting things done around the house like you, Matthew, right? There's always this list of never-ending chores that we just know. We kind of make the mental list of what needs to get done, i.e. pull weeds, laundry, just things that need to get done around the house. So I'll be doing that, and of course hanging out with the family and spending some time playing some music with the 5-day weekend group. And Matt, you'll appreciate this. One thing I've been doing a lot lately is kind of just rediscovering the YouTube stuff, how much fun that is posting and a lot of the content. So the @Dominic Aragon YouTube channel is back up and running with a lot of content that you would have probably seen me post 20 years ago. I'm just adult size now. I'm 32 years old, but I'll have a lot of fun with the music and the motorsports stuff. So yeah, give that a follow along if you are so inclined.
There you go. I am off to the nation's capital this weekend, going to the Freedom 250, the
Awesome.
Washington, D.C. Grand Prix. So definitely excited about that. This is, I had a few weeks at home, and now, guys, I am on the road for racing 7 out of the next 12 weeks, right up to the end of the NASCAR season. So it is DC this weekend, and then Daytona the week following, and then a few weeks after that, I'll be in St. Louis. So that is what I got going on this weekend. Excited about that. I
Say
think
real
that,
quick too, Tyler, it's going to be awesome to see you at some chase races this year because I know in the past there's been conflicting things. You're going to enjoy the atmosphere of a lot of these races, I think.
yes, I'll be at 5 of the 10 chase races this year. So I'll be there for about half of it. So that's exciting. But this weekend, I'll make a point on this as far as DC goes. Matt, I would say that, like what the saying goes, a rising tide lifts all boats. And I know that this Freedom 250 is an IndyCar event and everything. But Roger, of course, is heavily involved, owns IndyCar. There's an additional event for them. Fox is broadcasting it. They're a NASCAR partner. This is going to get attention in the U.S. And internationally here, but anytime just a special event in motorsports, I think even with NASCAR not even there, I think that's a big win for everybody here.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's honestly a historical event. I mean, in my opinion, I think it's pretty cool. We're doing a race basically around the White House. I mean, that's pretty it's pretty cool and something that I would think would be in the history books, regardless of the series, whether it's NASCAR, IndyCar, F1, whoever. Obviously, being an American series is more meaningful, being the 250th year of America. Just a milestone year or whatnot. But no, I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and Jonathan Feld and I were already talking like, hey, if this goes well, because this was a very last minute thing that they put it together, maybe that opens the door for NASCAR, potentially a new market to do and do a doubleheader weekend with IndyCar potentially. So something to keep in mind there. We got to run. We'll put the checker flag out on this edition of the Racing Roundtable. Subscribe to the show. New episodes out each and every week. Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, YouTube. Leave us a 5-star review or don't leave us one at all. Hit that like button on YouTube. We certainly would appreciate it. Follow us on social media. Hit us up on email as well. And check out the Studio Soapbox Network. This show, The Jones Report, as well as the Locked On Thunder Squad Show on all podcast platforms. For Matt Kemp, Dominic Aragon, I'm Tyler Jones. Thanks so long. This has been another edition of the Racing Roundtable. We'll see you next week.